And by the way, the women are always saving the men around here. You might want to think about changing the name to X-Women.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. And in today's video, I will be reviewing X-Men Dark Phoenix. This movie was bad. I'm not lying to you when I say that there were only 2 good scenes in this entire movie. The other parts of the movie were either cringy, didn't make sense, or just completely went against canon. Anyways, I'll talk more about those things that I really liked, and then I'll go on to my many complaints about this movie. I gotta say, at the end of the movie, seeing Jean Grey's full power was pretty cool to see. I like the fact that they showed all of the aliens running at her, and it showed this entire action scene in slow motion. What I can gather from this is that she can actually travel at super speed, which is pretty cool within itself. The other scene that I liked was the very last scene at the end of the movie, where we see Eric and Charles have their little chess game, and it was just nice because every single movie seems to have this kind of scene. I am not exaggerating when I say that those were the only good parts about this movie. So I guess you know what this means, that I am now going to start complaining. I want to start off by saying that I'm not one of those YouTubers who are constantly going to complain about the political parts or social justice parts of movies, because I just don't want that kind of negativity around here. But I have to point this out. This movie seems to have a strong emphasis on the fact that men are evil, and I really despise this within the movie, and it is one of the major reasons why I dislike this movie. I can understand being mad at Professor X for blocking Jean Grey's memories. That makes sense, but to suddenly push the narrative that he's a bad guy just because he's a man is a horrible thing to do. I especially noticed it with Raven and the main villain. I got to say Raven was pretty damn annoying in this movie, but we'll get to that next. Anyways, the main villain had this weird fixation on the fact that Jean Grey seems to be controlled by quote-unquote men. I really don't have much more to say about this aspect of the movie, but it just felt extremely forced, and it should not have been part of the plot points. Speaking of annoyance, I want to talk about Raven. In the first movie, I actually enjoyed her character. In the second one, not so much, but in this one, her character is awful. She was constantly complaining about everything, and she seemed to be a lot more arrogant than she was ever before, and it was just a major turnoff. She was also full of contradictions, which really messed things up. For instance, I showed that scene at the very beginning of this video where she made that very cringy X-Women line. It was funny because later on in the movie, she dies. And I thought in my head, I thought you said that women always seem to get things done right. But then you die, so that directly contradicts what you said earlier in the movie. This just proves to me that they were trying to push this idea in our heads that the men were the bad guys in this movie, and I just didn't enjoy that. The other thing that made me question was the beginning of the movie where they went into outer space to save those astronauts. Now, I don't know if this is something that the X-Men would actually do, and I haven't read the comics, so I'm not sure if they have done anything like this. But for me, it just felt really weird that the X-Men were saving astronauts in space. There are a lot of logistical things that didn't make sense in the beginning, where they went into outer space in the jet that was never made to be in outer space. They also didn't seem to need astronaut suits or helmets either. I also found it weird that when Nightcrawler and Quicksilver went into the damaged spaceship, they didn't need astronaut helmets in there, even though there were holes inside of the ship itself, meaning that it was exposed to the elements of space. You could say that Storm covered up the holes, but in fact that means that all of the oxygen was sucked out of the ship before anyone got there. Speaking of Storm, I found it really weird that she was able to cover up the holes on the ship. I found it really weird that she was able to control the weather in space. The last I heard, weather is only a thing on planet Earth, not in space. So I don't know how she was able to use her powers in space. But please, let me know if there is actually an explanation for this. I also found the main villains very weak in this movie. It's all very cliche to me that their planet was destroyed and this unknown power was taken by somebody else. So they had to kill this person who happened to be the good guy to make their planet new. It just sounds very cliche to me and boring, and they didn't make the villains very villainous. And again, the main villain was just annoying. It didn't have a real impact on anything. I also hate the fact that they were trying to make Charles the bad guy here, when really, in my opinion, he wasn't the bad guy at all. So the reason why everybody was mad at Charles was because he blocked the memories of Jean Grey's parents dying. Charles's explanation for this is that he knows that Jean Grey's powers are extremely powerful, and that if she became a bad guy, that she can cause some serious damage. Charles decided to block the traumatic events that happened in Jean Grey's life when she was a little kid, and I completely agree with this. I agree with this because nobody truly knows the full extent of her power. All they know is that she is more powerful than anyone else. I think it was the best option to block out her memories, so then she couldn't lose control because of how powerful she is. This whole movie actually proves that Charles was right. Let me explain. So the whole point in Charles blocking her memories was to stop her from getting angry and killing everybody. And in this movie, when she finds out those memories, she does the very thing that Professor X was trying to stop. Yet, for some reason, everybody was still mad at him, and I'm sitting there watching the movie thinking, are you people stupid? Everybody's motivations in this movie were very skewed and didn't make sense at all. I'm going to also mention the fact that at the beginning of the movie, we were in space and Charles told the X-Men to save everyone on the broken down ship. Raven, being the leader of the X-Men, said that it was not a good idea, but Charles insisted on not leaving anyone behind, so the X-Men go save the last person. This is the first time in the movie where the X-Men start to question whether they should be a team or not. Later on in the movie, this is directly contradicted. So Charles figures out where Jean Grey is, and he suggests that himself and Cyclops should go and deal with it themselves because he doesn't want anybody else to get hurt, which is very understandable. My problem with this is that Storm immediately says, "No, I will not follow your orders. I'm going because I want to go." That's great and all, but weren't you one of the same people that didn't want to get hurt because the professor told you to do something you didn't want to do, and now suddenly you're going against his orders because you want to be put in danger? It's like they want their cake and they want to eat it too, where in the beginning they were put in a dangerous situation and said that they need to pull out of the mission, and then when it is insisted upon, they get mad. Later on in the movie, the professor does what you want him to do, but then you change your mind and go, "Oh no, I want to be in danger now." So which one is it? Do you want to be put in danger, or do you not want to be put in danger? So I mentioned multiple times during these past few reviews that canon seems to be thrown out the window for these movies. Well, they really throw that canon right out the window in this movie. So many issues. And the biggest one were Jean Grey dying and Raven dying. This cannot possibly be part of the same timeline as the original X-Men movies, because there is no way that they are insane enough to kill off characters that we have already seen timeline-wise after the events of this movie. Why did they insist on writing the movies like this? Because now it's just going to confuse everyone, and they really should have thought of that before writing these movies. I feel like what they should have done was write these movies before they were even released. Not write them one by one, but write them as a whole. I know it's a meme, but this movie was placed in 1992, and the older X-Men movies were placed in the early 2000s, which means that this movie was placed 10 years before the original movies. What I find funny about this, And why I mentioned that this is a meme is because we're supposed to believe that our characters are supposed to look like they're in their 40s in this movie, but then 10 years later, they look like they're in their 60s? What were they trying to do here? Like, come on. I really hope that the current MCU fixes these issues. I really hope they do. Usually with movies this bad, the reviews are probably going to be a lot shorter, because I like to point out the good stuff in movies, even though it may seem like I complain a lot more than actually compliment. All I gotta say for this movie is that it seemed like they were trying to push an agenda that it shouldn't have been pushing. It made the good guys the villains were bad, and their only justification was men are bad and we need to save our world. They're just trying to make their characters look good and seem like they have deep thoughts, but in fact, it just degrades the characters and makes us hate the movie, and I don't understand why they were trying to do this. So what would I rate X-Men Dark Phoenix? I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. This movie was just all over the place. The character motivations weren't placed properly, the story was boring, the main villain sucked, and everyone was mad at each other for no reason. This movie just felt like it was forced upon us, and I really didn't like this movie, and I'm kind of glad that Fox stopped making them, because if this was where they were going, I really wouldn't have wanted to be there. So that is the end of the X-Men movies. Overall, most of the franchise was pretty good, but towards the end, it fell off a cliff. I really liked the movies from the very first X-Men movie ever made to Days of Future Past. I really enjoyed those movies, but after that they just fell off so hard, and I don't know why, and I'm kind of glad that Disney has taken over. I really like the performances from Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, as well as the other actors and actresses. I know at some point soon that we will see the return of the X-Men, and to be honest, I'm a little bit worried about it, but not too much. We already got a tease for the X-Men in Ms. Marvel, as well as some of the stuff from San Diego Comic-Con. I expect we will see a lot more of the mutants in the coming years, and I hope Marvel really does do a good job with these characters, and not just throw them in the garbage like Fox did. Anyways, the next set of movies that I will review are the Christian Bale Batman movies, and oh boy am I excited. I'm sure they'll be a lot better than these X-Men movies were. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching my X-Men series of reviews, so consider liking and subscribing to see more reviews.